Hello everyone, welcome back to Speaking Spurs, and me, Kieran, talking all things Tottenham. And today we're talking about the fact that we finally, what are we now, 25 days into the transfer window, and we've decided to actually enter the transfer market. I mean, technically it started last night, and that is Danjuma. That's who we're going to be talking about today, and a little bit more about the long ongoing saga with Pedro Porro. There's some slightly better news on him today. So, apologies that I haven't been around for the last week and a bit. For those of you that have followed the channel for a while, you'll probably know that I also do acting, so I've been on stage for the last week and a bit, doing a show that went really well. And in that time, unfortunately, there was some misery in the week, because not only did we lose the North London derby on home turf, but we also lost to Man City after finally breaking the mould and hitting a team in the first half, 2 goals up, and then completely capitulated in the second half. Don't really want to talk about those. And then obviously we had the 1-0 victory over Fulham. There's a separate video for that. I don't know whether you're watching this one first or that one, but just a brief summary of why I still think that even though we won that game, let's not get excited. But yes, we're talking about transfers. So Danjuma, who obviously Everton are furious at us, not for the first time. They are furious as we hijack Danjuma from a deal that they had loan set up. He completed his medical. Not only that, he completed media duties for the club and for Sky Sports as well. So we've taken him ahead of that move. Danjuma's agent had a massive part to play in this, because he was the reason this could all be done. He held off the final paperwork submissions that would have seen that deal cross the line. It now looks like, theoretically, that was a wise choice. He's now going to be in a top 4 battle rather than a relegation scrap. And when I was talking about we've done this thing before to Everton, if you look back to 2016, similar thing happened with Moussa Sissoko. Not quite to this extreme, but we snatched him at the last minute from them as well. So, is it a good move for us? Yes, in terms of squad depth and what he can offer when he's on form. Is it a good move for him? Potentially yes and potentially no. I think it's a little bit of a risk for him, because he'll come into the squad behind Son. He'll also be behind Richarlison, who can operate mostly on that side as well. So for him, it's a massive risk. And as a centre forward, Kane stays fit. He's behind Kane as well. So yeah, for him, it's a massive risk. But if he does play well, he could earn himself a permanent deal with Spurs. Or if he doesn't, he will probably earn himself a better move in the summer to a club a little bit higher up than where he is right now with Villarreal. Although they're actually performing pretty well themselves in the league. But his game time isn't as much as it was in the previous season. I think he's spent more time on the bench and stuff like that. And he's not had as much of a productive season as the previous, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So, the Dutchman, where do we know him from? Some of you will recognise the name, and that's because he's played in the Premiership with Bournemouth in 2020. He was relegated with them in that season, but he then enjoyed a brilliant season for them in the Championship, and that earned the move to Villarreal. And we all know the Championship, it's not a rubbish league. The Championship is still a very good league. I would put it up there with some of the top foreign leagues. So he did very well there, got his move. He shined for them last season, made the Champions League team of the tournament last year as well. This move could potentially allow Lucas Moura to move on. His injury, obviously, we still don't have a time frame for when he's meant to be back. And as much as we love Lucas Moura, it's not cutting the mustard right now. We need players to play. Yeah, Son's dip of form, that is also a concern for us. It doesn't look like it's turning anytime soon. In the Fulham game, yes, he got an assist, but don't be fooled by that. It was a very simple pass into Kane, and he did the rest. Kane was actually pointing exactly where he wanted the ball. So that's it looks good on paper, but actually when you watched it back, wasn't great. He did a lot of running in the game against Fulham, but again, with no productivity whatsoever. So I think he could, as much as I hate to say it, I think he needs to come out the team for a couple of weeks. Part of the reason he hasn't is because Richarlison has been battling to get back to full fitness after his injury at the World Cup. But I'm sure once Richarlison's fully fit, he's not going to hesitate about taking Sonny out of the starting lineup. And then obviously injuries is another reason why we would want Danjuma to come in. We saw what happened. Richarlison and Kulusevski were both out injured at the same time, and it hurt us. We had no recognised attackers on the bench because obviously Lucas Moore, a long-term injury. It meant Brian Hill had to have some game time, which was much needed of him, but he's not at the level to come in yet and really take us on to another level. So let's talk about his strengths. Danjuma's strengths are his finishing, his dribbling, and he's a counter-attacking threat. He's got good pace. Weaknesses: passing, aerial duels, his crossing is a bit iffy at times, and his defensive contribution isn't going to be great. And that actually links in something else, the defensive contribution, which we'll talk about in a bit. Positions: he's mainly operated as a forward, or he can be an attacking left-sided midfielder or winger. He's 25 years old. Ronald Koeman was the one that actually gave him his call up for international duty. That was October 2018. Then after nearly 3 years out in the cold, he was brought back into the squad to replace Gakpo for some of the World Cup qualifiers, but then Louis van Gaal decided not to call him up for the recent World Cup in Qatar. That's why you wouldn't have seen him there. His stats, we won't look back to his Bournemouth time, but for Villarreal, the 21-22 season, 34 appearances in all competitions, 16 goals, great, 4 assists, that definitely could be better and needs to be worked on. Then the 22-23 season that we're currently in, he's made 17 appearances in all competitions with 6 goals and 0 assists. So again, assists definitely need working on, but that kind of brings you into that realm of his passing and his crossing being attributes that he definitely needs to work on. So yeah, it's a strange one to bring him in. Obviously, he's got an eye for goal. It just depends where he's going to operate within the system. And it relies heavily on those wing-backs being the ones to deliver the balls, because clearly he's not the man for that. But he wasn't Conte's first choice. So we all know that Conte is after Zaniolo. But one that popped up that we hadn't really been linked to much recently was Gerard Deulofeu. Now, obviously, you'll recognise him as a former Barcelona player. He's had his spells in the Premier League. However, Udinese only wanted a permanent transfer. This was the issue. We were offering a loan with the possible option to buy. And because they want money to spend in the market, basically. So a deal wasn't able to be done. That was quickly shut down. The other reason that we may have gone for Danjuma instead is we know he was available. He's played in the Premier League already. And with AC Milan entering the competition for Zaniolo, it might have encouraged us to go for that. Although they're different positions, it helps in the attacking aspect. So that's a possibility. Although I am told Zaniolo is still not off the table. We're still very much in the hunt for him. But this was just about making sure that we got someone in one of those attacking positions to cover. A couple of things to note about him personally. There's been a few people that have spoken about him recently, saying that he's fallen out with a lot of his teammates at Villarreal. Can be a bit of a feisty character in the dressing room, so he's upset a few people there, and also his work ethic has been called into question. Conte won't take that kind of crap. If his work ethic isn't good, he just won't be playing. But however, could we have possibly got somebody else in? I know it's late in the window. Could we have got somebody else in with maybe a better work ethic? There are people out there calling him like a B-Tech version of Steven Bergwijn, who we let go. They both play on the same side, predominantly on the left. We allowed him to go, and he's had a successful time back in the Eredivisie. So are we seeing possibly a mistake? Look, the low risk part is it's a loan deal that will probably cost us about $2.5 million in loan fee. It's still yet to be known whether we're definitely putting in a option to buy. But if we do, it'll be around, I believe, $27.5 million has been quoted. Hopefully it's an option rather than an obligation. But I'm not sure. I have a feeling in my head that this is just a temporary solution till the end of the season. I have a feeling we won't take up the option to buy. We're just getting bodies in to help us get over the line, because Premier League, the Cup and the Champions League, we're going to need players if we get an injury. And he's somebody that could make an impact. So, look, just don't get too excited by the fact that he's coming in. I think he could be a good sign-in, and I think he could be a good squad player. I don't think he's ever going to push to be a first teamer. He has the qualities to do it. I don't think his attitude's quite right. I don't think the work rate is good enough to be a solid Tottenham starter. I think he's purely a squad player. A good squad player, though. Now let's move on to Pedro Porro. And it's been going on for a long time, which is why you haven't heard me talk about him a lot. I know a lot of the other YouTube channels out there seem to be mentioning Porro on almost a daily basis. I don't want to. It's boring. It's annoying. All we're being told is 45 million euros. That's his release clause. Pay it or don't. So you're just hearing the same story over and over again. But in a nutshell, we've had several meetings. We've gone back. We've revised offers. They've all been turned down. However, we're getting towards the end of the window, and they are going to soften a little bit, but not a lot. They're still saying they want the 45 million euros somehow, but they're now willing to not have the 45 million euros up front. So as long as we can make up the money in a way that they like, then why not? So Chelsea are already buying the world and his mate in this window. Porro is somebody that they're looking at if our deal for him falls through. The reason they want him is to be back up to Reece James. Now, my understanding from Porro and his agent is that he's not willing to come to the Premier League just to be second fiddle, so he would want to be a first teamer. He's more likely to be a first teamer starting 11 for Spurs than he is Chelsea over Reece James. So his agent, I believe, is holding off on any move to Chelsea until the Spurs move has either gone through or failed. So alternate options after that. We did have a 32.5 million bid rejected, which is still short of what they're asking, but apparently now talks over a revised structure of payments will take place today. Things like bonuses. So I think we're kind of looking at a 30 million upfront payment, and then there'll be bonuses structured in there. So that'll be things like after a certain amount of appearances, assists, goals, Champions League appearances, yada yada yada, things like that. Where Tottenham finish in the league table will all be things that contribute to how much we end up paying for him. So they're just going to retalk, restructure, possibly possibly give them a player as well in return. So there's discussions over which player that would be. Obviously that creates complications in itself because the player has to want to go to them as well. So look, there's still a lot to be done, but we are trying to push to resolve this today to move things along. He won't be in the door today. It won't be a done deal today, but we're trying our hardest I'm not involved in it. Tottenham are trying their hardest to push for that deal to at least be an agreement in principle. So that's where we're at with those transfers. As for Zaniolo, I think we are looking to get Danjuma completely announced, then Porro agreement, and then after Porro we are going to focus on Zaniolo. AC Milan, I think, have come out themselves today or yesterday and said that for them it's going to be hard to get people in through the door, so it does put us in the driving seat. Zaniolo is trying to push a move out the door. Mourinho has basically come out and said it will be in the best interest of everyone if he moves. So look, I mean, the longer the window goes on, the more likely it is we're going to get him for a better price. However, I think we just need to pay what the clubs are asking, because we saw what happened with Leandro Trossard. He's a player that I was desperate to get in the door. I know a lot of Spurs fans had their reservations about him, but I love him as a player. Every time we've played against him in recent years, he's caused us trouble. He scored the hat-trick against Liverpool. That's not an easy thing to do. I don't care that he's 28. He's in his prime right now. Take him. He didn't cost a lot of money. His agent came out and said, look, with Tottenham, we were talking to them for 2 weeks, and there was, oh, yep, that's great, but wait on this. That's great, wait on that. Arsenal came in, bang, 24 hours and the deal was done. I mean, Daniel Levy is great at getting prices that he wants, but the amount of time we've missed out on players because of it. Willian could have had the deal wrapped up 2 days before. It took longer. He had his medical, off to Chelsea. You get it wrapped up quicker. These other clubs don't get enough time and wind on it, and you get them in through the door. Diaz, Liverpool, another one that was just like ripped out from underneath us. And yes, I will agree, we did get the better deal in the end. I think Kulusevski is a better fit for Tottenham. But it's just those things where we're looking at these big name players and we're always the nearly men. It's almost like Daniel Levy tries to sign these players and leaves it as long as he can. So the Spurs fans go, oh, well, at least he tried. When maybe he didn't, it's a bit of a wild theory, but maybe he had no intention of signing them at all. He longs it out so another club comes in and takes them. But at least he can say, hey, we were in for the same players. But, it's Chelsea, it's Liverpool. How can we compete? I don't know. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on the Danjuma deal. I am interested to hear what people actually think about this one, because I have some reservations about him. He's one of those, he could do well. He should do well. But has he got the right attitude? Has he got the right work ethic? Will he be disruptive? I think maybe avoiding going to Everton was the best thing for him. If he's a bit disruptive in the dressing room, how's he going to be in a relegation scrap? So maybe they dodged a bullet there. But yeah, we'll see. We shall see. But as far as I'm aware, that deal is done. We're just waiting for the last bit of paperwork to go through. Medical, most of it was done last night, carried on this morning. So the word that I'm hearing is officially, it is a done deal. He will be announced. It's just a question of when. So yeah, thanks for that one. That's your transfer news for today. I have been Kieran from Speaking Spurs. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.